All right, this is Starkie Sowers. Welcome again to another Nutrition Mission episode brought to you by Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market. So I've been on this thing lately about fermented foods, and I just thought, I'd just talk about fermented foods today because I think fermented foods are kind of important. So one of the things I think about fermented foods is this. As a kid growing up, oftentimes we did not consume fermented foods. In fact, different cultures have different types of fermented foods, right? And so oftentimes we have a tendency to forget with today's society, the way things operate as far as like foods and the foods that we're used to. A lot of times we forget about fermented foods and what their benefits are. So before I get too far, I want to remind us of a couple different things. Number one, your body has 1 trillion cells. That's a lot of cells, isn't it? Believe it or not, on those 1 trillion cells, there's about 3 trillion bacteria that live. And you actually have what is known as a biome. In fact, the biome is actually part of your immune system. So think about this. You've got your external body, right? You've got skin, you've got hair, you've got lungs, and all these other different things. I know lungs doesn't sound like it's external, but remember, when you inhale, the air that goes into it, it's still technically outside of your body, isn't it? All right. So that said, what happens is that's what we call in our integumentary system, our digestive system, our skin, our lungs, the cilia, the nose. Believe it or not, even the wax in your ears is part of the immune system. So what does it do? Your skin actually has a specific bacteria balance, and that bacteria balance is brought on by a healthy biome or bacteria that are living in your system. And actually, any type of bacteria or virus that gets on top of your skin because of the acidic environment, it doesn't like it and it doesn't live a long time. So same thing with your digestive system. We just went through the whole coronavirus thing. The coronavirus itself attaches in 3 different areas to some different cell receptors. First of all, it attaches in the upper respiratory system, such as the sinuses. It also attaches in the lower respiratory system, which is the lungs, and the digestive system, making it very unique because most viruses only attach in one area. So that said, when there's a healthy lungs, when there's healthy digestive system, and when there's healthy skin system, it actually decreases your chances of being able to be infected by some type of a virus. So it's critical that actually we have a natural, healthy biome that keeps the bacteria balance in these areas healthy and prevents bacteria, any type of invader from getting in. So fermented foods are things that actually help with giving you, preserving, and helping to nourish your biome. Your biome actually changes as you get older. It kind of starts to shift. The colon, where a lot of the bacteria live, have a tendency to dissipate or decrease, as well as the acidic environment and once again, remember that an acidic environment in your digestive tract is critical to killing anything that's in foods that might be a bacteria or a virus or thing of that nature. So as we age, we start losing the hydrochloric acid that we produce. In fact, we go from about a quart to a pint. And so when we do that, we lose the digestive function, and we actually lose kind of a piece of the immune system. So fermented foods do 2 things. Number 1, they help with digestion. Number 2, they help to feed the biome and help it be healthier. The other thing they do is they actually help to digest foods that you're eating. It actually brings enzyme activity to the foods that you're eating. Now, before you go on a fully fermented food diet, remember this, that when it comes to fermented foods, a lot of times they're just part of the diet. They're not the full diet itself. And we're going to go through different types of fermented foods, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about maybe some of the natures where it's been for years. But remember also that some of these things actually end up being better foods when they are actually fermented. So we're going to talk about that as we go through them. All right, so let's start off with this. Bread, as you know, wheat is getting like, the big gluten scare. Gluten's bad for you, gluten this, gluten that, gluten this. Hey, let's face it, my daughters are gluten sensitive. In fact, I'm going to have one of my daughters come on the show. We're going to talk about that. She eats gluten and she's literally in bed for 2 or 3 days. It's that bad. Okay? Her system goes into massive inflammation, inflammatory. Her immune system attacks her gut because of the reaction that she gets from eating something she can't digest or she's technically allergic to. So when you look back at grain history for years, we actually see societies as they grow. We actually see an increase in celiac and digestive problems as the grain moment, so to speak, increases in those societies. Well, let's give you a little illustration. You have what is known as a hunting and gathering society where people are nomadic and they just go from one place to another place and they're living off the land, quote unquote. So when it comes to grains, they're really not harvesting grains. Then as the society changes, goes through industrial revolutions oftentimes, we go into what is known as a fishing and farming society. So now we're farming our stuff, we have fishing, and then we harvest, we have livestock, and we're doing all these other different things. And so what happens is we're relying more on local things. So grains and things of that nature we store. So obviously the American grain system has changed. We've gone from a spelt wheat to more of a red wheat or whatever the case might be, and we've GMO'd it and maxed it out and changed the gluten because that's the stuff that makes it puff up and feel good. But here's another critical thing that's happened. For years, the traditional societies knew that corn, any type of grain such as wheat, anything like rice and things of that nature, if it wasn't fermented or pre-digested, it made it that much harder for the body to digest it. So what did they do? They created different types of substances. So for instance, sourdough bread is a classic way of taking that wheat, you grind it up, you put it in with cultures that are basically milk type cultures. You let that flour sit for like a day to 2 days, literally bubbling. So what that does is creates a situation where those enzymes are being manufactured within the bread, as well as the fermentation process takes place, and it starts breaking the gluten down, making it more digestible. Okay? So here we see a common situation that had a common solution. Let's go another step further. I didn't bring any with me, but let's take the common tortilla. When it came to different types of South American cultures, they knew this. If you didn't take the corn and soak it in lime juice for a day before you made tortillas, people ended up getting certain types of diseases. In fact, pellagra is the one that they had. Pellagra is a B3 deficiency. Vitamin B3, basically niacin, very effective for so many different things, making neurotransmitters, things of that nature. Pellagra is the 3Ds, dermatitis, diarrhea, and dementia. I went to the bathroom and forgot why, and I itched the whole time I was there. Just a simple solution, right? So the bottom line is when it comes down to it, they found out, you know what, if we take corn and we soak it, it's going to be more digestible, doesn't hurt our stomachs, primitive as it was because they didn't have the knowledge of science we know now, and we feel better and we have better days. That's what they knew. So let's talk about some other societies along the way. The soybean has literally been raked over the coals in the last couple of years, last couple of decades. So when it comes to soy, obviously everything's been tried to made from soy. They make soy protein, they make soy this, soy rice products, all these other different things, right? So how was soy actually consumed back in the day? Well, here's what they knew about the soybean. Ultimately, what happens is this. It's better when it's fermented. Let's talk about a couple fermentation things. Let's talk about shoyu, okay, which is tamari, organic tamari. This is actual real soy sauce. Okay, so what's that soy sauce? Well, it's from this. This is miso. This is miso soup. It's a soup stock. And what they basically did was this. For years, they knew that you had to take soybeans and soak them and ferment them for 3 months, 6 months, maybe even up to a couple of years to get the nutritional quality or the nutritional value out of these things. And the miso soup is fermented. It means that the soy is broken down. A lot of people freak out and they go, phytoestrogens, it's got phytoestrogens, this and that. There's also, believe it or not, masculating different types of pro-testosterone products that are in there. Well, if you're not fermenting them, it's very tough to get to these substances. So additionally, what happens is as the fermentation process goes, there's a broth that would come up, and that's tamari. So what we did in the United States, World War II, we decided, hey, you know what? We're going to boycott all that stuff from Japan because we got this, war going on, senseless moment. So anyways, but a senseless moment in the fact that everyone had to go to war, not that senseless that people were trying to take over the world and we needed to fight them. That needed, of course, obviously be done. But the fact is, we're warring over stuff that just oftentimes, as they said, when they woke us up, they woke up the sleeping giant. But the bottom line is this. Here's the deal. So when we boycotted it, we ended up basically taking and making soy sauce out of salt, MSG, and burnt sugar. And we called that soy sauce. And oftentimes that's what we buy in the store today. It's not food. It's not going to work. This is what we call food. Fermented soy broth, and ultimately ends up being something that's good for digestion as well as assimilation as well. So let's talk about this. Here's another thing. Literally super popular. Korean cultures, different Chinese cultures, kimchi, right? Kimchi is a fermented cabbage, and it could be all sorts of different types of vegetables. You can use radish, you can use carrots, you can use all these different things, and you end up fermenting it, and it puts us in a situation where it increases digestive activity, increases hydrochloric activity, helps us digest proteins more efficiently, helps us also in a situation where we're digesting things such as grains and things of that more efficiently. It's typically used as what we call a condiment. It's put on around your foods and ultimately puts us in a situation where we're digesting better. Known for years, if you're doing fermented foods, you're going to digest better. So let's talk about this one. This one's been fun for a long time now. This is what we call kombucha. Kombucha has hit the landscape. It's in restaurants. It's in coffee shops. It's everywhere you go. We sell it truckloads in the store. I brought this one with us today. This is kind of a fun one. Synergy, one of my favorite companies. They have a couple different ones. I like the taste. I like the value of it. Low in sugar, things of that nature. But what is it all about? Here was the deal. Once again, it's a SCOBY. It's bacteria along with a mushroom fungus. And what you do is you take sugar, that's right, white sugar, and you take tea, and you literally ferment this stuff. And so what happens is this. It literally grabs the sugar and converts it into lactic acid, which, by the way, is good for the bacteria balance in the system, keeps bad bacteria away. Then the other thing it does is it creates glucuronic acid. Glucuronic acid is necessary for elimination of estrogens out of the system. The other thing that also creates, too, is acetic acid. These things are not only natural digestive force increasers for helping with digestion, but also work very effectively in producing a bacterial environment. At the same time, it's got cultures added to it. Oftentimes they're soil microorganisms, or they might even be kefir cultures that create this biome, so you end up with a probiotic at the same time. All right. So it was said in Russia, if somebody didn't have good kombucha, you didn't want to go to their house for dinner. Bottom line is, good kombucha is good stuff. All right, and let's talk about fermented cabbage in a different realm here. Now let's go to Germany. Look at the Germans. For years, they ate sauerkraut. You look at sauerkraut, you look at the bacteria that's in there. I also brought with me, too, from this Bubby's company, prepared horseradish, which is actually like a fermented horseradish. These things were culinary, obviously things used for culinary enhancement more so than anything else. It wasn't the staple. You just didn't take a fork and go into and start eating and chowing down freaking boatloads of sauerkraut, right? So here's the deal. It's a culinary accentuator. Helps with digestion, detoxification, and cleansing. So now let's go a step further and let's even look at this. Let's go to Bulgaria, right? So we go to Bulgaria, and for years, what was known as, Bulgarians eat yogurt. Yogurt's obviously great for the digestive system, helps with a lot of other different things, but where did yogurts come from? Well, we're going to kind of do a little parallel here. It's kind of fun. When you look at it, Eli Michnikov is the guy that did a lot of research on probiotics. So as he was doing research on the probiotics, so to speak, he actually found these bacteria. He's working in the Pasteur laboratories. Remember, Pasteur was about pasteurization. His idea was, let's kill everything that's a bacteria because it's bad, right? Eli Michnikov's on the other side of the lab going, hey, Pasteur, that's not true. What we do is we have good bacteria and we have bad bacteria. We want the good bacteria. So what we want to do is nourish these bacteria into foods or foods that have them and eat them on a regular basis. It's the key to longevity. And he goes, well, where are you getting this information? Well, you go back to the Turks, nomadic. They literally were going between deserts and doing their thing. And what they found is this. They would take milk and they would put it in their leather satchels, and it would actually kind of ferment and sour. That souring produced what we now call kefir, which is like a liquid yogurt. Well, these bacteria go into the system. They're probiotics. They feed the natural biome and help us with digestion and elimination. Well, as time went on, literally in the Pasteur Institute, Eli Michnikov started pumping out yogurt, saying, hey, we've been eating yogurt. This is the key, the fountain of longevity, no question about it. So it comes from all different types. We have sheep milk as well as cow's milk. We even have yogurts made out of almond milk, cashews, and things of that nature. All right, let's talk about some fun stuff. When it comes to apple cider vinegar, this is literally a staple. It's been around for years. When you look at this, apple cider vinegar, great for digestion, helping with increasing hydrochloric acid flow, also decreasing blood sugar in the body. But it ends up having what we call prebiotics in it, and these prebiotics feed the biome and help feed the probiotics. So we end up with another thing that's been around for years that's culinary to the United States as well. So let's dig into these. These are some fun drinks. I really like it. This one's called Olipop. So this ends up being a probiotic pop. Literally ends up using some prebiotics that kind of help to nourish it. So let's go another step further. This is even kind of funner. This is called tepache. All right. So tepache is a traditional Latin beverage. And what it is, it's pineapple juice that's actually been fermented with microbiomes and actually is a product that you might drink on a regular basis and actually have in a diet that you didn't even know about. Tastes amazing, tastes wonderful. So, and then finally, let's talk about some people that maybe are in the coconut craze. I love coconut stuff. There's a probiotic that we actually have that's actually coconut water with kefir strains added to it. So you say, hey, I can't do milk, check it out. Here's the Inner Eco product. This Inner Eco product ends up being a product where it's got the kefir strains, the probiotics grown in a coconut water medium, giving you and delivering you good bacteria that you could use on a regular basis. You don't like that? The GT company that makes specifically kombucha also makes a cocoa probiotic yogurt complex that tastes amazing. So here's the deal. What you don't want to do is just focus all your food choices on this. But what you do want to do is you want to accentuate your diet with fermented foods to feed your biome and stay healthy and help you keep that digestive system functioning for a long period of time. That's the key to anti-aging, is a longevity situation where you're digesting, eliminating properly, and feeling good all the time. All right, so pick one or two things, maybe try to slip it in the diet. Obviously, simple things are like maybe yogurt. Instead of buying that stupid stuff in the grocery store, you want to buy, when it comes to like soy sauce, you want to buy tamari sauce, which is the actual fermented stuff. A couple other little fun things that you might want to pick up along the way. And hopefully this will help you start digesting better, not only digesting better, but feeling better. Thanks again for listening and watching another episode of Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market.